the crumple though. Yeah, nice use of, try to use the stay medium kick.
And good escape on a 360. This is still all Kevin. And then that happened. Uh-oh, too late. Is he going to delay to wake up? No, he did not. Oh, he got him. That was amazing.
That was good. He might be dead.
This Ultra is 100% Ultra. It's going to do a lot of damage.
Be dead. Ooh! The impossible happened. That was crazy. That was actually really good. That was a sick read, Snake Eyes.
Say it with me, guys.
Wow.
Skies protected.
Skies are protected.
When playing a 2D grappler, it's a classic game plan of walling the opponent and getting into your grab range. But in today's video, we're going to be covering a game that was resurfaced due to the most recent Capcom Collection. What's up, fellas? Patriarch Panda here. Hope you guys like and subscribe to today's video. I'm trying to get to 3,000 subscribers to make the Iron Tiger video. It's a classic. Been trying to build up to it. If you don't know, I'm not a big fan of BlazBlue, so that's going to be an interesting thing. Who knows? Maybe it may convert me. Maybe it might convert me, you never know. I do like fight games, to be fair. Before we get started, let me give you a quick recap on what a grappler wants. That way you understand what is the usual and the norm. As always, we gotta cover it, you need to know. When it comes to grapplers, they always have that 50-50 game plan where if they get in, it's strike and throw. Super powerful, does a ton of damage either or. It tends to be that they have to work very hard to get in. That's the bad side about the grappler. The neutral sucks, but once you're in and the opponent has to deal with that. But what happens when the grappler has to play dirty to open his opponent up? And they're given extreme pressure to do what they want, and the neutral might be a bit murder, but you got some tools that are exactly not playing fair. Let's get introduced right into the game that we're going to be doing today. It's time to experience the most exciting battle in history. Let's get ready to battle!
Capcom. This is the tournament for the new millennium. You'll experience the most exciting battle in history. Let's get ready to battle. Feel the intensity when power and technique collide. The competition. A battle beyond your imagination. Let the martial arts predictable. 2001 is the year we make contact. Welcome to the revolution. Capcom Vs SNK 2 Millionaire Fighting 2001.
I was vibing, okay? Capcom Vs SNK 2 is an awesome game with so much sauce and variation that you can generally play this game any way you want. Where do I start? The game has a ratio system where you can pick between 1 to 3 characters and then give them 4 points to vary between them. So for example, if you pick one guy, he gets all 4 points, giving him more health and damage. Or you could pick 2 guys, giving one of them 1 and one of them 3, or maybe giving them both 2. Or you could pick 3 guys with one of them getting 2 points and 2 of them getting 1 point. Confusing, I know, but this is some of the best pre-planning in a fighting game. Capcom vs SNK had some of the best when it came to getting into that pre-planning. Someone with 4 points was an absolute unit that was hard to kill, but they still had their base health to scale. So for example, someone like Shin Akuma, the main boss of the game, will still get folded at 4 points, but someone like Zangief, for example, is an absolute powerhouse that you're going to have to get it on multiple times to truly kill him. Someone with 1 point meant that they were a pushover, so Shin Akuma, again, I just died. He died with 1 point, so you don't really want to give him 1 point. You want to give him like 2, maybe 3 if you want to play a character like that. The fighting game was actually a 6-button fighter, meaning characters from the SNK side that only had the 4-button systems like light punch, heavy punch, and light kick and heavy kick, all of a sudden had an extra button. Some of them utilized their command normals for the medium normals, and some of them gave them brand new animations. This was definitely a fresh sight of eyes for the SNK fans. Not only did you get to see your characters in the Capcom sprite-like style, but you also got to see some new attack animations, added a bit more life to your characters, despite the fact that SNK characters already have a ton of life to work with. Guess what, nerds? It's time to go and beyond dorky. You guys are gonna dork out. If you love dorking out in a fighting game, you love your pre-planning, Capcom vs SNK 2 had some of the best pre-planning in fighting game history. For example, if you're a fan of Sam's show, maybe Fatal Fury, well, let me introduce you to the groove system, where you can pick K groove which made it so that when you take damage, you build meter, you have just defense, and when the rage builds up, you deal more damage, and your super is the best version of it. Again, if you're a Samsho fan, maybe you want to play Samurai Showdown Zangief, maybe you want to play Samsho Ryu, you know? You can play Samsho Sakura. You can do that. Why? You can do that though. That's an option. Every group had their own unique meter system that played like the games. For example, if you like Street Fighter Alpha, you like the A-ism, which is the super style, where it gave you free bars, you can pick the C style, which will give you free bars to work with, and you'll get a bunch of the mechanics from Alpha, like rolling, dashing, and air guarding. So in this style, you can block in the air, which is so strong because some styles didn't have that. Like, did you absolutely love Street Fighter 3 Third Strike? Well, P-Groove is for you. Why? Because you gain access to Third Strike parries and its super system, which is like you whiff normals to build the meter. This is awesome because all of a sudden you can now play Iori like you're playing Third Strike. You have no idea how sick this was being someone who grew up with Capcom games or SNK games, because you're all like, oh damn, I'm a big fan of Zangief. I play Third Strike Zangief, which never existed. This was so sick to grow up with because all of a sudden you had this game that got the perfect combination of all your favorite characters with the meter systems that represent their games. You got to play A-ism. You got to play with the meta ones, with A-Groove, which act like the custom combo routings in Alpha. So if you like the Alpha custom combos, well guess what? Now someone like Rugal has custom combos. This is beyond insane. This game's awesome, and that's some of the best pre-planning I've ever seen in a fighting game. But of course, they've all got their metas, and some grooves suited certain characters better in the meta. The best ones were A-Groove because of the custom combos, K-Groove because of the access to rage and how that buffs a ton of characters like Sagat or Kami, she was really good with it, or C-Groove, which was a very nice all-rounded groove that gave you access to air guarding, for example, and some good defensive tools like rolling and short hops, whilst giving you the free bar super system. Like, good groove to pick, solid groove to pick. But yeah, now I need to get into one mechanic that was super important for this game, but not important for the character that we're going to be talking today, which is the roll cancel. In this game, you could plink a roll cancel in the first 2 frames, make the move that you're going to do have iframes while approaching. For example, Ryu here is doing a roll cancel Hadouken, which makes it so when he does the Hadouken, he's going to have iframes on the startup, he'll avoid some attacks like a projectile, and send one back of his own. Roll cancelling was super important for a ton of characters. I believe it was great on characters like Chun-Li and Kami. On the character that we're covering today, you wanted to play him in K-Groove, so he didn't have access to rolling. It wasn't important to this grappler, but it was important if you wanted to play him in other grooves. So yeah, A-Groove was busted because not only did you have custom combos that allowed for guard crush living scenarios, and not only was it busted because you had roll cancelling, it was just a good one. You had good pressure, good combos, and you could kill it off of anything. I mean, look at this Bison combo. Painting the fence is what they call this, and look at the damage it does. It's really good. You know the base game mechanics, the grooves, the systems, the parrying, air blocking, all that stuff. But we need to talk about a character that utilized K-Groove. The big fella who defined himself on violence. Heel turned hero. The out of control tank. The big bear. Raiden!
Did we?
Raiden is the other powerhouse grappler in the game. To rival the Siberian Cyclone Zangief, Raiden in Fatal Fury is a bad guy heel that used to work for Geese but became a babyface, which is the phrase for a good guy in wrestling. The good guy persona was the Big Bear, but the game devs opted to pick the evil version of him being Raiden in this game. Raiden was a violent grappler, used to commit to extreme violent acts when wrestling under Geese's command. Through wrestling, became one of Geese's top henchmen, but after having a tight fight with Andy Bogard, Raiden then decided to change his life for the better, and he became a good guy with the wrestling persona Big Bear. One thing that's funny about Raiden is that he likes to go back and forth between these two wrestling personas in the Fatal Fury universe. He likes to go between Raiden and Big Bear because he finds it fun to play those characters. He calmed down on the ruthlessness on that aggression. Ruthless aggression. You like going between the characters. You thought it was fun, and you know what? That is what wrestlers do. They constantly flip between heel to babyface, babyface to heel. Look at The Rock, right? He's a perfect example. So I like it because it's oddly cute. And in CVS2, they decided to go for his Raiden counterpart, where he's a bit more ruthless, a bit more dirty with his fighting. And you know what? I find that's cute. And before I realized what he was about, I thought he was lame, but until I found this out, probably one of my favorites. He's kinda adorable, not gonna lie. To get into his game appearance, he did actually have some good stats. The only thing that held him back was his wake up time and run speed. Besides that, most of his overall stats are good in terms of health, his projectile hop, and his stun bar. This means pairing him with K-Groove is a good idea in the meta placement. He sits at C+, making him a comfortable character to play into a decent chunk of matchups. So in the meta, he wasn't overly represented, but you could play him. You would have a hell of a time against like Sagat, Sakura's, Iori's, Blanca's. But at the end of the day, you could probably play him into a good chunk of matchups, and this is one of those games where if you pair the right character with the right groove, you can probably make them work. It was one of those games that was properly figured out, and it's still being figured out to this day, 20 years down the line. I want to list his strengths and weaknesses, that way you understand what made him who he is, and what makes him extremely aggressive compared to other 2D grapplers within this genre like Zangief and that. Because I feel like this is important to cover. Here's a list of his positives before we get into the things that made him good, and then we'll get into the things that held him back. I feel like we need to do that. I feel like I need to tell you what was great, so you can understand, oh wow, he's unique, he's cool, he's interesting, he's very different to other grapplers of the big boy variety. And then I need to crush the landing with telling you what made him weak. Yeah, taking a look, he had good health, he had Rika offense, that means he could vary his offense a ton. Good damage, insanely solid supers, decent roll cancels. We're not going to be talking about them today because they aren't too mental, but he had amazing use of K and C groove, which again, those are the meta grooves, so having good usage of that is amazing. And had some scary offense, some of the scariest in the game, by far. You didn't want to mess with this guy. K groove was good with Raiden due to having great health. Raiden also did amazing damage with K groove in effect. At the end of the day, when it came to K-Groove, it just made sense. You could get good at just defending, and then that was you. But Raiden does have tools that you want to roll cancel, but he doesn't care too much, and this is why we picked K-Groove. He does insane damage when he's in this groove, and with his supers doing this type of damage, this guy didn't have crazy defense, so forcing yourself to learn just defense to build meter was the play. And I like this, because at the end of the day, C-Groove wasn't going to benefit him defensively either or, so it makes sense to get good at the just defense system, learning how to block perfectly, recover your health, build rage, and just build the meter. Yeah, sorry about that, I had some chicken. In terms of neutral options, they were very limited, but the things he had access to were pretty solid, nothing too mental though. For example, his light kick covered good space, was hard to whiff punish, and was +4 on block, so it was a good poke to represent with little risk. In terms of anti-airs, he had his jab, it was hard to use, but you could definitely hit the short hops, very easy to hit those. Heavy kick was unique, it avoided lows to strike back with a drop kick, neutral and block as well, right? So already sounded like a good normal. But the problem was it was on hit, it was -9 on hit, with not much pushback, meaning it could unironically be punished on hit. And that, it feels foolish. On block, very good. On hit, his sweep was quite nutty, allowing for a fast sweep that is hard to punish due to spacing. You got a hard knockdown, decent reach, and it was hard to catch. It's very hard to catch, good to represent. He has a crossbody like most grapplers, allowing for a active cross up, and he has some interesting normals like Bear Stomp, where he'll stomp the ground, and it was completely disjointed. And you're probably wondering, why would you want to use this tool? It has no reach, and it was good against tools like Blanca Slide or like Kami Spiral Arrow. You can use that to check those tools. So you had to do it preemptively. You had to represent it with a bit of a delay. You were trying to call it out, but besides that, it was a good tool to show off an occasion. Best normal, it went to jumping light kick, which, to be honest, look at that. That doesn't look too impressive, does it? Until you realize it's active for 22 frames, comes out in 4 frames. It's an amazing area and an amazing jump-in tool. Yeah, so this was representing a ton, especially if grooves with short hops. This kind of went crazy. This was a very good pressure normal to get a good jump in with. Let's get started with your most egregious tool in neutral, and what made the character aggressive in my mind. The most aggressive 2D grappler in terms of these down-to-earth fighting games. even though CVS2 is not a down-to-earth fighting game. That was its tackle. Boom! Goes full screen. Pretty solid. Is punishable on block though, but you know what? If you space that looks difficult to catch, doesn't it? Just for a good chunk of the screen, you see it's got good reach. Now, you're probably wondering, what makes this good? Right? What's the good thing about this tackle? And let me show you, dear viewers. Yes, that is correct. It had iframes. It had iframes going forward from frame 3, I believe, to I think 22, and it was super active. This was a flash kick that went forward, and this leads to how aggressive he was in neutral. He was able to power through fireballs, power through pokes, and hit the opponent. And it was hard to punish because of the pushback. Used that up close, you're gonna get caught. But besides that, this was a great special to represent in neutral because you were able to play through opponents with a clean read. It almost felt like Raiden was cheating, you know? Like, what was he doing with iframes going forward? That's insane! Sagat had to be a bit cautious when fighting this fella, but at the end of the day, it was Sagat, right? You know, he was a top tier pick. But if you use this pretty well against the character, Sagat had to think twice. But yeah, with good reads, this allows Raiden to get in, threaten some good offense like his normal throw. And you're probably wondering, why his normal throw? We'll get into that later. It was his offense good, and that's because of how varied it was. He had close, really good normals like crouching jab, which was +5 in block and came out in 4 frames. You're probably hearing that going like, that's a pseudo infinite. Pushback denied that. But at the end of the day, you're probably like, that's still a busted normal. And I agree with you, until you realize what is the best normal in this game. And that is Sakura's +9 stand
light punch
that comes out in 3 frames. Or 2, I don't remember. Point being, it's absurdly quick and is +9. Look at that! +9! That's good reach! This was his normal throw. Look at that range. Normal throw's pretty good on Raiden. You know, you get some good Oki as well. So this was represented a ton with the character. Not his command grab. We'll talk about that later. Also had a Rekka series with a safe end or pushback. That's right. The Rekka series was a good way to open people up for his normal throw, which was done by holding forward heavy punch. Rekka series was pretty good because you did a punch into a headbutt. The punch was pretty minus on block, but the headbutt was -7 with the pushback, and on hit actually led to a juggle, meaning you could sell better Oki. So this was your light confirm. You did light into the headbutt. You go bump, bump, punch, bump, bump, you know what I mean? To continue on with the Rekka, there was another thing that he had. You could go for this suplex, like command grab. However, it came out at 24 frames, so you didn't want to represent it because it was reactable at the end of the day. Getting into his next aggressive tool, and it was the poison breath. Look at this. Boom! And that is some pretty good damage in terms of the guard. Look at that, it is building up. And the interesting thing about this is that you're looking at it and going like, okay, what was its main purpose? This was your reset tool. This tool was +9 on block and allowed for some good pressure. It was fairly slow, but against characters that were big, you know, like Sagat, this was a very good pressure special move. Some characters couldn't crouch under it, so you use this to keep them locked down and respect your plus frames to set up for a strike throw. So if you want to reset the opponent, keep them locked in, and try to deal with that guard beater to get a free opening, this is the tool that you would use with Raiden. So he had a clear design of what you wanted to do. You wanted to go between setting up normal throw, Rekkas on hit, try connect them to get a hard knockdown, or use this poison breath to reset the opponent. So he was very aggressive. He had a ton of reset opportunities that you had to keep your eyes open for. If he was sent back to neutral, one clean read with a shoulder tackle put him right back in. Oh yeah, neat thing as well, on the Rekka series he can connect to his Flame Breath Super after a juggle. Not easy to do though. This is an old fighting game, and I'll tell you something, I hurt my hands trying to do this old execution. I like old execution, but this hurt my hands. 2D fighters were something else, bro. I don't know how people played Street Fighter 4. Try to tell you that was an easy game to pick up. People are psychopaths, bro. That's why I think he's the most aggressive grappler. He's in, he has so many tools to represent, and you've got to think about what happens when he has meter, when that rage is built up, because when K-Groove is built up, he did 35% more damage on everything, leading to his next powerful tool in defense, and this is the only thing you use on defense, which was his 720 classic escape command grab. There's one problem with it. Not for you, the opponent. It had insane reach, 115 pixels, which was pretty big in these games, by the way. Look at that. That is insane reach, and with the K-Groove, you use the strongest version of that super every time. Every super's had 3 versions, a light, medium, and heavy. When you were in K, you used heavy every time. And the heavy version the chunky damage, look at it. The combo supers, again you have the Flame Breath, which you'd use after the Rickas. Getting to the most unique thing that Raiden had, which KOF 13 made better use of this tool than what this game did, was his drop kick. If you held two kick buttons together, which you should always hold medium kick and heavy kick together, because light kick was essential in his toolkit, and his medium kick buttons were ass, and his heavy kick buttons were okay. At this drop kick, which act like boxers turnaround punch and go through projectiles in modern Street Fighters and deal a ton of damage. However, for the maximum charge, you need to charge it for 48 seconds. This was the same with Raiden. He had to charge his drop kick for 48 seconds to get the chunky damage version. Except they had one weakness. It wasn't a projectile callout tool. It had no iframes whatsoever, so you didn't use this against projectiles. You had to use this as an anti-air play. Most times out of 10, Raidens would charge at level 1, maybe 2, to anti-air people with this massive drop kick that was super active. You would never use it anywhere else because it was incredibly unsafe, minus 39 I believe. But that was it. That was it. You mostly used this drop kick that was super unique to Raiden. I think it's such a cool mechanic for a grappler to have, as it makes sense, a drop kick that became stronger and stronger, that covered so much screen space. But what he really needed was to either make it more safer, make it either plus when you charge it all the way, or give it some type of like projectile invulnerability. But they didn't do any of that. So unfortunately, this drop kick was relegated to one niche, a niche it was good at, but one niche indeed. Yeah, these tools made him super aggressive, taking space in a matter of moments, and a Ricka to mix and throw, having some solid reset tools, insane pressure normals like light kick and light punch. I think this makes him an insanely aggressive 2D grappler, because most have to wall or dive to make guesses. Raiden cheats his way in with iframes and poison breath for pressure. I think that suits the wrestler from the down under. Now we've got to talk about things that held this unique grappler back. This is the negatives we've got to talk about now. Let's get into the main one that held him back. His speed. He was very lackluster in neutral. His pokes weren't good, medium kicks ass, heavy punches ass. His crouching heavy punch was supposed to be an anti-air, is super slow in the hitbox that you want, comes out in like 14 frames. His normals were not good in neutral, and his speed certainly bad as well. With K-Groove he at least had a run, but that run is still very slow. He did have decent pokes like crouching medium kick and like heavy sweep and heavy punch doing what he needed to do. But heavy punch for the crouching one, again bad anti-air, and standing heavy punch had no cancels unless it was a super, so you did this into poison breath sometimes. But this was a misinput for normal throw, and everybody knew it as soon as they saw this normal. But yeah, minus hit on block hand and hit. For heavy punch was good, but again, no cancels whatsoever. It was a decent normal for being plus, that was it. Lackluster neutral and essentially pokes. He didn't really have them. The only thing that he had to do was make reads. Again, shoulder. And I feel like shoulder made most of his neutral as well as jumping light kick, his jabs, and standing light kick. That was about it. That was all you really represented with this guy. And if you represented anything else, you were just good at the game. Besides being slow in terms of movement, which is a massive problem, the next one is his command grab. The thing about this character is that every guide recommends that you use his normal forward heavy punch throw because his command grab is dookie. Now why is it dookie? Well, his command grab comes out in the same range, is slower than his normal throw at 3 frames compared to 1. And here's the kicker. Watch the animation and tell me if there's a problem. For all the educated folks in the chat, you're looking at that and thinking, that doesn't give Oki. And you're absolutely right. This command grab gave no Oki whatsoever. Meaning if Raiden wanted to get in afterwards, he just didn't. He had to represent shoulder to get back in. The damage was better than his normal throw. At the end of the day, his normal throw had Oki, reach, and damage. So why would you want to trade any of that for essentially no Oki? So why would you take away the best portion of a command grab, which is what you get to do afterwards? Held him back. And because he was relying on normal throws, it meant that fuzzy techs were a good piece of tech to beat Raiden players. So Raidens had to get super creative with mixing in their normal throws, because fuzzy techs were pretty solid to do in this game. It held back his offense, don't get me wrong, his striking was good, poison breath was amazing, and he had amazing reset tools. His records were good, and he did have that normal throw, but the normal throw was an equation that could be solved, and that's a problem with fighting games. When your character can be solved, that means your character has issues in the current meta. This leads into K-Groove, and I know what you're wondering, but isn't K-Groove meta? Well, it is, but there's a problem with it. The groove is great for him and some other members of the roster, but it limits the people that you can run on your team. Sakura, one of the top tiers of the game, wanted A-Groove. She loved the custom combos, it led to good guard breaks, it led to good pressure, and it led to good combos. Same with Bison. Iori wants C-Groove, one of the top tiers that are very all-rounded. He wanted C-Groove because he had access to good meter, rolling, and because he had the best roll cancel in the game, by the way. He had some of the best rolls in the game, you didn't want to mess with that. He wanted C-Groove, so you couldn't pick Iori. The characters that you had access to that wanted K-Groove in top tier were Sagat, Blanca, number 1, and Kami, which are all really varied playstyles that a grappler doesn't want to pick up. Right? You look at Sagat, he's a zoner. You're playing Raiden. There's no way you want to play a zoner. 9 times out of 10, a grappler hates playing zoners, so you didn't pick him. Blanca, bit of a freak, bit of a funny little guy, so maybe a grappler would pick him up, that's for sure. He still needs to get the next slot. And the next one's Kami, a super rushed down aggressive playstyle, which is way too fast for most grapplers to play. So your characters on your team were limited. In K-Groove, you wanted to have the best characters that you could. And you know, someone like Bison, he was picking A-Groove, he wanted to paint the fence. Someone like Sakura, same with her, she was doing the show loops. And of course, Iori, might go roll cancelling his way to a dub. K-Groove, this was something you had to consider, which was your picks, the people on your team and how they could utilize K-Groove. Raiden was great with it, same with these characters, but the characters had to be down for it. And that's the problem. Were you down to play those characters? And 9 times out of 10, no. Most grapplers' mentality. No, I do not want to play these characters. And the some that did were ready for that meta and they love playing Raiden. Much good for them. How did people even make this character work? Oh no, is that a montage? A weak character and make him work. Raiden wasn't weak, but he was someone who didn't really shine in this game. And it's unfortunate because he had a ton of cool design practices into his toolkit. I'm like looking at this, I'm like, wow, this is fun, this is unique, this is interesting. And then there's the occasional really bad thing that holds it back, like the command grab, lackluster neutral, being K-Groove reliant. It was a problem. It was a problem. In a game like this, most characters had iframes on wake up. He didn't have it until he was in K-Groove, which was an issue. If you wanted to make him work, you had to make clean reads and on offense, you just had to vary to the point where the opponent couldn't keep up. And that is how the top dogs that played this character in tournaments made it work. And it's fun to watch. I mean, look at these fellas go, man. You can catch many of these VODs here. I'll send some links down if you guys want to watch some good Raiden gameplay, because it's a treat to watch. Absolute treat to watch these guys try to play neutral, set poison breath and all that. But yeah, I feel like this is probably one of the most aggressive 2D grapplers in the current genre. No one else really compares, if I'm honest. But you know what? If you want to get aggressive and talk about modern day, sure, go ahead. But back in the day, there wasn't really a grappler like this that was super aggressive and in your face like this with reset tools, unless you go to an anime fighter, unless you go to a 3D fighter. This is why it was unique. Right? Jesus Christ. They love riding. Christ almighty. That's me, Patriarch Panda. Hope you guys like and subscribe to the channel and also join up in the membership system. You don't gotta, but it helps me out a ton because I'm trying to get into funding right now because I've got some trips planned ahead. I want to make sure that's all good. But we're trying to hit 3K subs as I'll cover the Tager video. Yes, something I've been avoiding for a long time. And we're getting there. We're like, how many subs away? Like 140? Like, you guys are 130? I don't want to play Tager. But who knows? Maybe I might like BlazBlue. I mean, I do like the look of Bullet. Very quick grappler. Something I want in Strive. So, yeah, 3K subs. Let's make it happen, fellas. But that's me. Hope you guys enjoyed today's installment of the most aggressive grappler in 2D fighting games. Peace out, and have a good one. See ya!